Great. Thank you so very much, sir. Appreciate it. So all those of you who'd like to interact with sir are more than welcome to take his contact details. But till then, okay, let's be honest here and let's see how many of us are ready to wait for another 40 minutes or so. I'm sure a lot of you are. Come on, our panelists are here. So I say 45 minutes of maybe we can bribe our channel, our session chair a little and convince him to wrap it up in 45 minutes. So by your choice, I'd now like to introduce our panelists on stage. Let's put our hands together as I present to you Mr. Mukul Prasad, Director and Group CIO, Welspun Group. Please bear with us a couple of minutes while we get the setup ready. Thank you for joining us, sir. We also have with us Mr. Tom Thomas, Executive Director, Technology and Project, CA Tyres. We welcome you, sir. We have with us Mr. Gautam Datta, Senior Director, Marketing, Siemens Industry Software, our partners as well. I'd also like to welcome on stage Mr. Madan Thirukuvanchalam, Senior Director, Business Transformation, PTC. Let's also put our hands together as I welcome Mr. Ajay Thi, Chairman, CXO, APEC Forum. You're more than welcome, sir. I'd now like to introduce to you our session chair, Mr. Akhilesh Tateja, Partner and Head of IT Advisory and Technology, KPMG India. Warm welcome to each one of you. So in an ideal scenario, we'd like to take questions during the lunch hour. Of course, we'll take them offline. Thank you so very much for bearing with us, gentlemen. Another couple of minutes as we mic you up.
If you disappear, I won't be able to see because all I see is these bright lights in my eyes. So I'm sure it's all on purpose. Apologies for that. Apologies for a late start. And apologies for also not taking time to introduce my fellow panelists because I can tell you that each one of them have so much of vast experience. If I started to introduce each one of them, we would be here before maybe by the time the lunch is over outside. So I'm not going to introduce. What I have here is a very difficult task today, and the reason I have a difficulty is because of three reasons. One is that the panelists are very, very contentful, so I'm sure they have a lot to say. And the two is that I'm somebody who's going to understand what they're saying so that I can ask them a little bit more intelligent questions. That's a difficult task for me. And the third one is we have very little time. So 45 minutes is all we have. I've already taken 2.5 minutes, so 42.5 is where we stand. Before I ask the question, I just wanted to kind of start to think aloud about this subject. So the subject which we have today is game changers, interconnected systems. So while we think about it, when I looked at the subject, the first thing which came to my mind is saying that why interconnected systems and why not connected systems? So what would be the real difference between a connected system and an interconnected system? You know, because sometimes one can get very confused about what's the difference between connected and interconnected. So I just thought I'll start to with that feeling that, you know, what's the real difference. And as I thought more about it, one thing which came to my mind is that how many of you have a LinkedIn account for yourself? Right. Okay. That at least shows that there are people in the room. Okay. I saw some. It wasn't just a screen which I was sitting in front of. So a lot of you have LinkedIn, and there each one of us have a lot of connections, right? To me, connected systems are like LinkedIn connections. I'm sure each one of us have those 100, 200, 500,000, and those connections which we possibly have never spoken to, but they're all connections. And to me, the difference between a real connection and interconnection was there's a sense of mutuality. And I think that's what I'm going to take the discussion. So let's not talk about the connected systems in today's discussion, which we have. They've existed forever, but the interconnected system where the communication is two-way, there is a sense of the same belonging to the same ecosystem and the system talking to each other. So there's a mutuality, and that's the one thing which I wanted to kind of cover. The second thing which I focused on the subject is a game changer. So it's not necessarily doing more of the same, doing incremental stuff. It's really changing the game. So I think I want to also request my panel members to talk about, you know, what's the real what's the real game changer concept before that. But I just want to do a kind of quick check in terms of the audience I'm dealing with. So how many of you are actually engineers? Oh, okay, I should have actually asked you that how many of you are from sales guys. Any sales guys in the room? Okay, I've got some, so you guys are all sponsors, by the way. Okay, anyway, so just before I start, a little bit of humor, and I'm taking this liberty to go a little bit over the thing. So this is, here is a psychologist. He wanted to figure out that, what's the real difference between engineers and sales guys. So, he said that, there are a lot of studies which have been conducted that the engineers are more analytical and all of that, and I can take a little bit of laughter on the sales guys because there are few in the room. They can be killed very easily if you all just surround them. So here is a psychologist who set up a room, and in that room there's a pretty woman and who's sitting on one chair, and there's another chair on which the subject is put. So there's a sales guy who's put on this chair, which is about 20 feet away in the same room. Pretty lady sitting on one chair, and the sales guy sitting on the other chair. And the psychiatrist comes and says that, I will conduct this experiment till you like. Every 30 minutes, I will reduce the distance between the two of you by half. Would you like to go for this experiment? And the sales guy says, no, I may not have been a champion in mathematics, but I do know that this is an asymptotic situation, and I'm never going to reach to the lady. So the psychiatrist says, sorry, okay. And then he calls the engineer, and he says, same situation, 20 feet, lady sitting on the one side, and the guy says, I'll move your chair by a distance of half every 30 minutes. What would you like to do? And the guy says, go for it. And here this guy says, I thought that these guys were analytical, mathematicians and all of that. So he says, don't you know that you will never get there? He says, of course I do, but we'll be in the same room at least. So that's the kind of situation which most of the engineers live in today's time, and I'm seeing that this room is also pretty much full of my male colleagues. But without taking too much time, may I request, just talking about one aspect is, saying what is the game-changing possibility, and I'll start with you, Madan, is to say that, what in your view is the real game-changing stuff which the interconnected systems can achieve today?
All right. So, we are talking about smart connected or interconnected environments. The pieces of these technologies have always existed. We have had internet, we have had the communication infrastructure, we had the computing infrastructure, and the products are becoming smarter. That is one of the facts that is changing in this environment. The smart products are communicating back to the manufacturer or to their customers. And when they communicate valuable pieces of information which enable both consumers and manufacturers to derive much more value out of these systems or products. And those are the game-changing facts, that when you derive much more out of these equipments or products that you use in real life, and their longevity of usage and their efficiency is value added. That's the
they've existed for a long time, the internet has been there are a number of systems, but they become smarter. I
exactly.
think that's the part, and which is really the game-changing thing. Although actually I think when I look at people around, maybe that's what my dad also used to say, that the next generation is dumb, and I say the same, that the next generation is dumber with these smarter things around, but anyways, we are all wrong. Okay, so coming on to you, and you kind of also belong to a similar community where you actually enable a lot of these manufacturing technologies to become smarter through interconnectedness. So how would you like to take on this one? Moving on from
firstly, I totally agree with what Madan said, and probably reinforce it by giving an example. Let's take an analogy of a car and the fuel efficiency. Let's compare that with our productivity and efficiency and lean manufacturing needs of the future, reducing waste, improving productivity. Beyond a certain point of time, we all realize that mechanical systems cannot give us any more. That's where we brought in, electronics, fuel injection systems, computer-controlled ABS and stuff to get more out of it. Similarly, analogically, if we have to do more out of the systems, no more the traditional ways of improving efficiencies, productivity, will help. It is the interconnected smart technologies, cyber physical systems connected with cloud. I mean, these words are very, very big flown words. So it's simply put is, the futuristic sensors connected with cloud, managed by intelligent, smart, software-driven algorithms will give us the fine-tuned decision making on its own, so that the manufacturing setup, the sales setup, the business itself can reorient itself, re-optimize on a day-to-day dynamics and respond to the changing market space, which is very, very fast.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on that very insightful thing, saying, and in some ways I'm repeating yourself, is mechanical systems will have a limitation, and to take it beyond, you got to move to electronics or smart and all of those things. I actually want to take a little bit of a twist on this one, and I'll come to you, Mukund, in that sense that, the guys sitting on my left are what I call the dreamers. They create possibilities, but you are the real users in that sense. How far is the dream come true? And what are the kind of things which you see which have happened, and what are the things which are yet to happen, and what are the things which you possibly think are more like dreams?
So, I don't think it can be called a dreamer, because they are the ones who create possibilities. The challenge now, the user perspective on this will be the awareness of the technology, the adoption of the technology, the organization for that technology, the talent available for that technology, the architecture, the metrics, and the sustainability which the technology may bring, and the change management involved. If you look at all these aspects, and then let me get back to the technology. And I will, since the subject is on manufacturing systems, you start with the level 1 technology and move to level 2 and 3 and 4. While so far, the level 1 and 2 have been totally in control of the equipment manufacturer. So along with the equipment, he gives you the technology. Now, how much of that technology you are able to use? Now, there are not many users who actually use level 3, but many use. And I have been responsible for implementing many of the MES systems. So the usage of a level 1, level 2 and level 3, that becomes the challenge related to adoption. Now, what are the real challenges which exist in the business? Now, if you are talking about manufacturing, at a plant level, things like plant automation is a given. So the areas in which you can handle the business issues of warehouse management, business issues of transport management, business issues of manpower productivity. Now, when I say manpower productivity, I want to classify this a little bit here. Many of us, at an equipment level, you have already got an industrial engineering study done that what should be the production there. And you also know the actual production. But are you able to relate that advantage of productivity to your manpower planning? Which means if you want labor, then are you in a position to forecast that this is going to be my labor requirement? So you should not be in a situation that you are running short of people on a particular day by huge number, and on a particular day you have a surplus number beyond a certain benchmark which you may define. Now, these are some of the practical issues where the technology has to work with business. There are immense possibilities in these small areas, and the adoption of that technology remains a challenge in that. But, and I'm coming back to the manpower point again, because once you start addressing what the business manager, what the plant manager, not the business manager, what the plant manager requires for raising his skill and his productivity, if you give him those things, then then straight away there is no gap between the service provider and the user. Service provider, let me talk about some new technologies now. While you people have talked about some of the connected enterprises and the technologies involved, one thing which is going to make a major difference to all of us, the development in nanotechnology. Algorithms have already been talked. They are going to make a big difference to us. And the biggest example of algorithms are things like Google Map, the way it works today, and the way so easily you people use. Now, these are algorithms which can create so much of benefit within the plant also. So how that usage can come easily to people rather than selling him an equipment, with certain amount of sensor related information or certain information which actually only gives the information state of health of that equipment. Beyond that, and let me connect you to the manufacturing environment. When a production happens in an equipment, based on the capacity planning and the scheduling, and some of it gets rejected. How do you replan that rejection if you do not have the batch size for the production of that item? Those are issues which the level 3 system and level 2 system should talk, rather than them having a system. And how technology can educate the customer to make use of that system will create the adoption much better. And that is the perspective which I thought from a user perspective is very important, because a lot of technologies are available, but what contribution they are making to your productivity and how they are going to make a difference to your business in terms of your manufacturing systems, that is going to be the key measurement criteria.
I think that's very well said. That's very well said. You're saying that there is tons of technology available today, but what really matters to you and what is the approach you want to actually get to. And you also very brilliantly talked about what level 1, 2, 3 can do, and where the 4 can come into play. And I do want to pick up one aspect about you, which you mentioned about change management. I think you didn't describe it too much, I'm sure, during the paucity of time, but Ajay, who's sitting next to me, deals with a lot of CXO, and he's also been through the journey of actually implementing some of these interconnected smart systems. So Ajay, I come to you with saying that what is the current situation with respect to the adoption, and how difficult or easy the change management part is in this arena?
Sure, Akhilesh. In my experience of having implemented successfully interconnected systems over the last 7 to 8 years, I found one of the biggest challenges was in the people aspect and the process aspect. What Mr. Amrinder Sinha was also mentioning, zero defect doesn't mean focus only on the product, focus on the process also, and the human factor, which is very important. And in working with the context of corporations in the Indian space as well as overseas, I have seen that the people factor in fact is something very important, and their understanding of the technology, their absorption of the technology, and the transformation that they can enable for the organization can be excellent if there is a buy-in from their side. And this buy-in doesn't mean that it's only people at the shop floor level, it's people at the board level, it's a shop floor, and quite often in fact people from the technology front themselves who have to be given that buy-in so that they can understand what this technology is going to do for the organization and not resist that because of their own lack of understanding. 7 to 8 years back, when I implemented the first XMI implementation for a large steel plant in India, one of the biggest challenges that we faced 3 challenges basically. One was from the organization perspective, convincing the C-level why we should invest in the technology. Second was the technological obsolescence that we had to contend with from the plant side, because the plant was a very old plant and there was a potpourri of technology which was going on over there, some which was very old, some which was recently introduced, so we had to mix and make sure that this adaptation takes place well. And third was the people aspect. In the people aspect, what we had to do basically was to encourage the people at the shop floor to understand the technology, learn it, and not being repetitive, use it effectively. Once the usage started, then the efficiency factor came in over there, and that's when what the business was looking at, visibility, predictive intelligence, so on and so forth, that started to happen. That was about 2 to 3 years post implementation. So the patience factor has to be there. It is not that suddenly you just swipe the wand and immediately the technology is in place and it starts working, which is looking good in a PowerPoint presentation, but in reality it's all hard work and sweat on the shop floor. The next thing that we see is the transformation that the interconnected technology can bring within the organization. And if you are looking for or aspiring for the perfect plant, as we call that, interlinking the people, the processes, the technology, and the systems, and then of course the product itself, the quality, the customer, the advantages are superb, they are quantifiable. In fact, if you go to sap.com, you'll find a case study of mine over there which is dated 2010. And there are specific benefits of having deployed interconnected technologies are mentioned over there, which is what our organization had achieved. So it's not something theoretical that one can really, keep talking about in a presentation, but the working factor, the cultural factor, it's very important. And most of all, I think the person who's driving it must have a lot of passion, conviction, and clarity about how to go about it and what exactly is the outcome or the end result of this.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you. And I'm keeping the last one for the best in some ways, Tom, is coming to you. And I want to kind of take it from the technology to possibilities and change management to the real core issue of the cost. And I'm sure you've, in your variety of roles that you've done, you come across this all the time, saying that, what is the business case for some of these things? Sometimes they're obvious, sometimes they are not. And more so, you have a long process of justification. And then having implemented it, sometimes you find results, sometimes you don't. So what's been your experience and advice to people in terms of what should they be looking at it when they make investments of these types?
Yes, the investment is definitely a big criteria when it comes to going for smart systems or any IT-enabled systems. But the value that one realizes is substantial. That realization has to come only through experience. Now, just to give you an example, iPhone is expensive. But today you don't have to sell iPhone, it is being bought standing in queues. Okay, so that experience has to come. That is a total solution. It's a very user-friendly solution, and it delivers results and is robust. That recognition has to come. That depends on the robustness of the design and the buying and experience of the people who are using. So once that comes, implementation is relatively quite easy and quite fast. There are challenges in today's manufacturing, actually. The need of IT is today, there is no question. Because today's competitive environment, quick service, zero defect, at the lowest of cost, this is felt by people in the shop floor also. So there is no barrier now that the need of IT is there or not in the shop floor. That's true. But what happens with the current level 3, level 4 systems? They are not very user friendly. So there is enough resistance in the shop floor to go with it, because it's not as user friendly as handling an iPhone.
Yeah.
So there is a need for a system, an interconnected system, which is simple, nimble, online, and can give all the informations in a very usable way for different levels to take decisions. That is the need. That's the need of the that system. It's not simple, because manufacturing is very complex. It's a huge amount of data is involved, huge amount of data, and very valuable data. Collecting all those data and analyzing them from various systems right now existing and converting to an MIS which is very usable online is a big task. That design of that system, I'm sure, is a big task, though we have some smart systems announced. But such a system, if well developed, it can really transform manufacturing. It can make it just in time, zero defect, lowest of cost, least of manpower employed, highest productivity, all that will come if you are able to get to there very smoothly. Now, as regards the capability, the IT capability in India is, I mean, world's best. So
Correct.
that is no problem. But what will be the challenge is the functional capability. You need the experts of the process, experts of the product, experts of the technology. Both of them together only can develop that very effective solution. That today the manufacturing industry is really suffering. Last 10 years, manufacturing industry has not really attracted the best of talent. Whatever name you call it, policy support, government support, lack of all that, but whatever it is, the talent has moved to IT and those areas. So there is a huge deficit of talent in manufacturing. Good that manufacturing is getting the right focus now. Make in India is the movement. So I'm sure talent will get attracted, and this gap over a period of maybe 3, 4, 5 years will get narrowed down. And the IT professional with this should come out with a smart, easy to use online this which can transform the manufacturing. This is, as a manufacturing man, my expectation.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think I'm amazed. You put it in very simple words. So 2 things which you talked about from, so IT need is undeniable. It's all there. IT talent in the country is certainly abundant. But 2 things is, one is the technology simple, and is manufacturing industry able to attract all that abundant talent which you got there? I think it's a beautiful way to put it. I kind of want to move on to the different dimension of questions, but before I do that, I just want to take a story here, because when you talked about the simplicity and the, you said productivity was the thing, and now the bunch of data and all that, the story which comes to my mind is that of a typewriter. And I'm sure many of you know that the typewriter was invented. It wasn't invented to do things faster. Okay, the reason typewriter was invented was handwritings were difficult to identify. So, what is the simplest way to type which everybody can read and write was the fundamental reason Scholz invented the typewriter. And if you would have noticed that the QWERTY keypad which you are all now using was actually a result of a number of people making the typewriter jam, because people started to type so fast that the keys will just get jammed. And then these guys came and said, okay, we need to simplify. We need to actually make it difficult for people to type fast, and we will move keys which are not normally to be used at center, and keys which are normally to be used like the A and S to be on the smaller and lighter fingers, and the vowels are distributed. So that was the purpose. Of course, this is a deniable situation. Some people believe otherwise. So, but the reason is that it was made so that the typewriters don't jam. And that's how a QWERTY keyboard was invented. It's actually quite illogical to my little daughter when she used to question, saying that, why, Dad, why are they not in alphabetical order? It's a kind of a question. But the same thing has actually been carried over, even though we don't have the typewriters which have keys striking to the paper, right? We now have got smartphones where you at best touch, sometimes you swipe, more times so often than you speak. But yet the QWERTY keyboard carries on the generation. And that's where I think I want to see that how are you guys making the technology, his point, simple, and not carrying on those QWERTY principles which are archaic and they were built for different purpose. So give me some examples of real situations where life has become really simple.
Yeah. So I think the point of adopting technology with manufacturing companies is to say that the way things are changing and everything has become interconnected with technology, manufacturers have to have equal amount of software engineers to make sense of whatever data is being collected. So what technology companies like us are doing is making these software development or interconnections much more easier, in the sense using standard protocols, and also making sure these developments which are unique to each manufacturer are done 10 times faster, in the sense that we don't need millions of lines of programs. So we basically need manufacturers to design what they want to see, and then the programming is done in the background automatically. 10x faster is what we are striving to achieve. So that will make sure that people demand what they want to see in terms of data, in terms of reports, but the development to connect all of these information and present it in a way that they make most business sense out of is done in a much faster fashion. And that's what we are striving to do, because everybody needs the software uniquely developed to their business environment. So there's no shrink wrap which can be just installed in a tire manufacturing plant compared to a towel manufacturing plant. They would like different data to be presented to them in a different ways. So that's what we are trying to do.
Thank you, ma'am. I think I may not have time to go through everybody, but I definitely have 2 questions, and I come to you for that one. Is when everybody is talking about saying that you got to build some custom systems, and at the same time